All right, what you're looking at is a project, and you can find it on pulling crystals even further. You can take a crystal oscillator and you can add a trim cap in it and make it go up in frequency. That's all I want to say. Pulling crystal filters further. Go look it up. Now, what I want to tell you about is uh, I told you about when I have stuff shipped to me. It always goes wrong the same way, no matter how I try. Order it when I order it, it still shows up a week later. There's always a holiday involved or a storm, and I tried to beat that by ordering the part from two different people. And in one case, I got the part real quick, but it was the wrong part. It was a miniature version. There was an M in front of the number. Well, anyway, uh, through my life, people would say to me, "Why aren't you married?" And I would actually tell them the wacky, weird stuff that would happen, and they'd say that's impossible. And then in this case, I had a night shift, over 25 women. I told them different things that had happened to me, and they decided they were going to take it upon themselves and fix me up with this girl. Now, I told them I wanted a non-smoker. I made that very specific. Well, they fixed me up with this girl, and there was these big fights between the girls. And I said, "What's going on?" Well, she didn't tell you she's a smoker. We heard you say specific. I said, "Well," I said, "I'll still go through with the date because you guys real. I'm going to show you how bad things can go." And they're like, "Well, it's already yes, it's already gone bad." I told her I didn't want to go out with smokers. So I met the girl. She worked in the company I worked in. I was night shift. I met her. She was a chubby little girl that couldn't stand up straight. Uh, Not good looking. But I said, I'll go through with this anyway. So I come in another night, and the girls are like, I said, "Look, I'll just do it to show you I can date somebody." "Well, you can't. She's in jail." "Okay, here we go." So two of the girls were laughing hysterically. They said, "You warned us." I said, "Yeah, I told you some of the stories and certain things that keep happening to me." Now, one of the things that happens to me, I'll be out walking somewhere, or I'll be in a store, and I'll strike up a conversation with a good looking girl or someone that figures my age, the whole thing. It always goes wrong. An eight ball always shows up. Now, if you don't know what an eight ball is, it's a person that's on another planet, and they'll stand there and stare at you while you're talking to the other person. So I'm walking the other day in this neighborhood, and I see this woman walking the other way, and right away I know she's got black hair. I have a thing for black hair. I grew up around Italian girls, and yes, when they get married, they get heavy, but a lot of them are really they're a little more forward, and they I always got along really good with them. So I'm walking, I see this woman, thinking she's Italian. I'm ready to say to her, "You from this neighborhood?" Well, we're talking to her about the weather, right into it, and found out she lived in New Jersey, 3 towns from me. She knew people I knew. She knew all the stores and what. And out of the corner of my eye, I see an eight ball. And you said, "No, it's not impossible." All right? I don't want to tell you every story that happened, but it got after a while it gets ridiculous. So there's a guy that's HOA president over there, and he marches around the neighborhood. He marches. He don't walk. He marches. And if he does have anything to say, he's complaining about the job. But anyway, here he comes, and he's not marching his usual route. He's cutting a corner. I could see him. And as he approaches, the girl says to him, "This guy here grew up right near where I grew up," and we're talking. So now I say to the girl, I continue the conversation. We're talking about sandwich shops in New Jersey along Ridge Road. To be specific, Ridge Road, Kearny, New Jersey, still has a couple of them left. And there's Mr. Pasta in North Arlington. It's an Italian foods, sandwiches. At Easter, they make up different. It would be hams. They cook hams and specialty items. and pastas, and it's called Mr. Pasta, of course. But that's the building Joe Pesci comes out in one of the movies. But anyway, so I'm talking about this girl knows everything I'm talking about. We're having a good time. Now this guy's standing there like an 8-ball. See what an 8-ball does is he's not going to get into conversation per se. But I mentioned the sandwich shop, and I said we really don't have that here. We used to, and here it goes. Here we go. He's not going to leave. He sees me talking to her. That's not his wife. That's not his girlfriend. That's not. But they stand there, and they're socially awkward. Now I can go out for a walk, and any woman I go by, and I'm not shaven. I won't show you how bad I look. I look homeless. I got this giant beard. Certain women can see right through that. And I start talking, and I didn't even get to ask her she married or any of that because the 8-ball showed up. And 8-balls have their way of standing there and staring, and they're like retarded. I hate to say it, retarded. And they're in society. They have a different outlook and everything. But it was so funny telling the women in Gordos, my night shift women, all the stories. Little by little, I tell them, yeah, this went bad this way. And they're like, that's like really bad. I said, no, what's really bad is when you get in a situation with an 8-ball or something's going wrong, that's what's really important, is to get out of that situation without doing any damage. You know, and in one case, this one guy would actually start yelling at the girl, why won't you go out with me? You're going to go out with him. 5 times with that guy. All right. And where this would happen, that the girl behind the counter actually asked me out. And then the 8-ball found out about it. He went ape shit. Okay. Something wrong with him mentally. That's what happened. So I have all these stories, but lately, I'm not in the middle of a neighborhood that I walked through for 15 years, and I see this woman, never saw her before, and I can start a conversation. I'm really good at that. But when something awkward starts happening, I have no clue. And these people are so messed up that you can't do it. Like, yeah, we used to have that stuff here. I was like, oh, and I said, it's nice meeting you. And she went one way and went the other. I was hoping she was going to go up, but she went the opposite way. Well, anyway, that's what I did on the guy. I knew which way she was coming, where she was going to go, and I went that direction, but she's getting away from the 8-ball. So the 8-ball's wife died 2 years ago. So I guess he's been bothering the women. I learned in a conversation, I've gotten better at letting the other person talk. But in this case, this is like a no-brainer. This girl grew up three towns away from me, walking distance towns, and it was just going great. Now, whether she was married or not, I got cheated out of that conversation. But somebody just said I should make a channel about this stuff, like Gene Shepard. Now, Gene Shepard was on the radio. I think it was maybe WOR. All the kids in my high school, the older ones, listened to him at night. And they would tell me, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. When 9 o'clock rolls around, I have to be asleep. And he was on, I think he was on 9 to 12 or something like that. I knew who he was, and he would tell these stories about growing up. Now, he would tell the story about, trying to date somebody, and this other person would keep showing up. And I've always had that happen. And it was so funny. You got to picture all these women on a night shift. And I told you he doesn't want a woman that smokes. Why did you hook him up with her? Well, she ended up in jail. She was at a bar with a guy. She told the mother she broke up with the guy, and the mother was fixing me up with her through these women. And she ended up going to a bar, and they sold some drugs to an undercover agent, the FBI, whatever. She was in jail. So I come in to work. It was so funny. There's some women that had their head down, like, why did we ever get them involved? And the other ones are laughing. They go, she's in jail. I go, you got to be kidding. She goes, no, she's in jail. And I started telling them, I said, she's pudgy. She can't stand up straight. She's a slob. And God bless the guy that's going out with her, But it was so funny. The mother was so excited because these girls kept telling him, yeah, he's got money and he works really hard. And she's getting all excited. And I said I'd go out with the girl. You know, it's a fix up. And they never bothered me again after that. They go, this is, except for a couple women there. Let me see, to put it nicely. Most of them are dead now. But there were a couple of them that were only maybe 5 years older than me. And the one actually brought her daughter in to meet me. And then her twin sister basically says, my sister really likes you. Her husband's not giving her any attention. Of course, I'm giving her attention. It's a night shift. I'd walk around and check the girls' work. I'd have conversation with them. I'm basically a friendly person. I know some of you figure I come off very grumpy. I understand that because I went through a lot in my life. I took a lot of crap, and now I'm very bitter about it. And it's my fault. I never stood up for myself. Now, when I moved out here, this one woman told me, grow a set. That's what the woman said to me. It was just, she goes, you're too nice to people. They'll walk all over you, and they do. And, my sister did that to me, and I won't go into that, but you gotta stand your ground. You gotta have your own free time. People will relegate you to their crap if you're not careful. And I could tell you so many stories, but the people are still alive, and I don't want to get sued. But if you're watching the dear leader run the country, I had a boss that was just like that, and he ended up getting fired, and he kept changing everything. Just what their dear leader's doing, laying people off that shouldn't be laid off, moving all the stuff around at work, and then he'd write it up. He'd write down that we need to catch back up, and he was causing the problems. And I talked to the guy that was working with him. I said, it's like he was working for another company to drive us under. And the guy that was working wouldn't talk about him at first. He says, there's something seriously wrong with the guy. And then one time I had a review for my 6-month review or whatever it was. And he starts talking to me about his big dream. And he wanted to buy something. And he was my boss. And it was $3,000. And he couldn't get $3,000 together. And I'm sitting there at that time. I think I had probably $150,000 in the bank, plus a house that was paid for, and a brand new car. And this guy's, I can't get the money. I'm like, I know how much you make. I knew how much he made. Well, he had a bad marriage, and he ran up a lot of credit card bills. I understand that now. I sort of understand it then. But he was also buying stuff, maybe thinking he'd keep her happy. And then when he got divorced, but there was something seriously wrong with that dude. But when he got let go, they gave him a week to walk around and say goodbye to everybody, and he didn't. And someone says, go over there and tell him what you really think about it. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, I could bump into him at the next place, and they're going to believe him over me because he got there first. But there's so much in life that if you try to be nice to people, you get walked all over, and you lose the moment where other people would shine. I had this friend. He's in. I grew up. I went to school with him. He's in Ohio. He could drive his car down Ridge Road in North Arlington and Kearney, and girls would just. And he was kind of heavy set, but he just had a certain something. And he's been married 3 times, and he's got a bunch of kids. And he just knew how to get out of these situations. And I would sit with him in drafting, and I would tell him, I get myself into these. He knew how to get out of all these things. He says, sometimes you have to, it's a facial thing you do. You're talking to the girl, the 8 ball's there, you make eye contact with the girl, and you got to go, talk to you later, and zoom off. And then if she's smart, she bails too. And then at a later time, you seek her out. But in my case, sometimes you bump into someone, and it's a lot of housing developments here, and you might only see that person, once or twice. And I asked her, I said, I've been walking this place for 16 years, and I never seen you. She says, well, I just felt like getting out today, and all. Like I said, we were having a good conversation, and I was letting her talk more than me, because what she was mentioning is what I grew up around. It was perfect. And then I saw that 8 ball out of the corner of my eye. And I stayed there. I said, maybe he won't do that. And I'm in the back of my mind, the voice is like, yeah, sure. He won't walk over and make an ass out of himself. We used to have that stuff here, but now it's all gone. And he's just going, like, what's it, Gonzo, the guy that plays the drums on what the hell is it, Muppet Show? But it was so funny, and I didn't know what to do. That's one of my, I have certain flaws or certain parts of my personality that just they're not there. I'm too naive. Normally, I just stand there and yep, and then hope he just leaves, but he didn't. He wasn't going nowhere. And after a while, you can't even understand what he's saying because son of a bitch. But I had a lot of weird things happen in dating. Yeah, one of the funny ones is I show up at a house and they're setting me up with this girl, and my friend, my friend says to me, "We're going to go get pizzas." For all these girls showed up, and they're fixing me up with this one girl, and I got to go to the pizzeria, and I'm paying for the pizzas. These people, they just came out of college, they had no money, and I said, I'll spring for pizzas for everybody. I had a job, I had a lot of money, and we shoot over to the pizzeria, and before we went, I said, as long as I have a part of a pie that doesn't have, I was worried about pepperonis. I eat them now, but back then I didn't like pepperonis. And I said to the guy, as long as we get some of the pies, some of the pieces, some of the slices without pepperonis. So we go over to the pizzeria, and my friend was notorious for never spending any money. And we're getting like 3 pies, and he turns to me, and he's got pepperonis on them all. And the guy that's there at the pizzeria, he knows me because it's near where I work. And anyway, I said to him, "Look, leave me some slices without pepperonis." So anyway, he does that. He's making, and my friend turns to me, and goes, "Me and so, his wife, we've been getting anchovies on the pies." So I said to the guy, I leaned forward and I yelled to him, I said, "Put anchovies on those pies," and he knew to leave certain slices without anchovies and pepperonis. So we get back to the house, and I tell the girls, I said, I said, we got pepperonis and anchovies on the pie, and I said, I said I had the guy leave plain slices. They're for me. And then my friend says he wants me to go down in the cellar and look at his water system. He was having trouble with it. So I go down as I'm talking to her. But just before I went down there, this girl starts ranting on me. The girl I'm supposed to be meeting for the first time. She's ranting on me. "Oh, you don't like pepperonis?" I'm like, this is the girl they're setting me up with? What a bitch. So anyway, we go downstairs. We're working on the water system. I get it done. I go up to get my pizza. The bitch ate my slices without, well, I don't like anchovies. And I'm like, I should have went off on her, but I didn't. And then I hung around. She left, and they're like, did you see that? She was busting your ass about the pepperonis, and then she didn't want the slices with the anchovies. I said, that's typical. This is why you're fixing me up with someone. This is why I'm not married. Because this keeps happening. And they're like, I said, how do you get out of that? How do you get out of that? You got someone like, "Oh, you don't like pepperonis? Why don't you have Oh, there's anchovies? I don't want the anchovies. Let me have those plain slices." And she heard specifically, when I was leaving, she didn't kick in any money for the pizzas. None of them did. I said, just as long as I have some slices for myself that doesn't have the flavor of pepperoni. It was too hot for me. I would get agita. But anyway, agita, I'm upset. But this is the stuff that follows me. I got real good in electronics. Because electronics, you stay with the thing until you fix it. And most people, the stuff I worked on was stuff that other people botched, and they got bamboozled from it. They didn't want to go near it. And I walked in, I stayed at a distance. And every time you fix something that doesn't make any sense, it adds to your savviness on electronics. Like the last time, I know it was radio before this one. the oscillator wasn't working. I knew right away. I had signal in from the antenna all the way to the speaker. And I have no local oscillator's not working. I'm doing all the tests. The tube was open. The filament, brand new radio, never used. The tube was open. That's the stuff that I found it, of course. But in other words, you're standing there like, I have all the voltages. You check the filament voltage, it's there. But the filament's open on the tube. But I stay with it long enough, I find it. And in your mind, you assume that all the tubes are good. And some people, when they get a radio, they pull all the tubes out and test them all first. And then a lot of times they put them back in the wrong place. Then I get the radio. See, there's all this stuff. They do the right things, but they mess something up. And EEV guy, he was funny. He got a new circuit board to put in a voltmeter. And when he went to put it back together, he put the old one back in. I like that guy. I like him because he's real. Okay, Shango's second place, but Shango's real political. He's a real anti-Democrat. See, I'm an independent. I don't like either party. I can go on and on and on about how each one of them, neither one of them does anything for me. All right, I'm the guy that pays the taxes. I was single. I paid extra taxes because I was single. I used to put down single, no dependents, deduct one, and then when I do my taxes, basically I would owe money every year. And I tried that was another thing I couldn't get ahead of. It's so annoying, some of the stuff that I keep doing. The other thing too is I use earbuds. And no matter how I take them out of my ears, when I go to put them back in, the right and left channel is reversed. And the thing slowly winds itself up. I don't know if you deal with earbuds, but every once in a while I pick the earbuds up, and I know they're going to be backwards. So I reverse them, put them on my ears. They don't sound right. I pull them out and look. They're in backwards. It's so funny stuff. And like I said, you had to see the look on these women on a night shift. I told you didn't want someone that smoked, and they're arguing amongst each other. I said, I have a very simple a thing. Well, what type of woman do you like? I said, first of all, I want a non-smoker. Right? Other than that, I'm pretty flexible, And like I said, I meet the girl at break time or something. She's by the time clock or whatever, and she can't stand up straight. And and I talked to the woman. Like, yeah, she's kind of lazy, And then like I said, I go in there. I think it was a Monday, and they're all with their eyes down, and I'm like, what happened? And one girl goes, "She's in jail." I'm so funny. Oh my God! But that's when you have a funny life, you got to learn to laugh at it. But like I said, the other day, there's a woman with black hair. There's no gray in it because she rinses. She puts a rinse through it. And why do I like black hair? Well, I'm raised German and English, and all the women I was around always had that same brown hair. I think you call it brunette. And then they would buy this dye to color their hair, and they had the same color hair to start with, and then they dyed a certain color, and they all still have the same hair color, even when they get older. It's like I was like, I always found that the girls with the black hair, they were Italian, and they were more feisty. And I like girls that you don't have to watch every word that you say to them, because they'll use that word back at you. Where the other ones were, I used to say to them, I used to call them Dorises. And Doris is deceased now. But Doris, it was funny. I hung around Doris. Her father was the minister that I hung with. And one day she just started talking about, I want to start smoking. My father says, no, I have to wait till I'm 18. I'm like, okay, Doris, you're overweight. You're not that good looking. And you want to become I said something to her. I said, some guys, I don't care. I want to be a smoker. And I don't know what she died from, but she is dead. But some of the stuff, when someone mentioned Gene Shepard, when he says something, I laugh hysterically because I get what he's saying. And you say, what are the odds of that happening? No, there's no odds involved. Bad happens all the time. Ridiculous stuff happens all the time. But you figure, if you bought a lottery ticket, you would win. But you don't. You still don't win that. And every once in a while, when a bunch of events happen in a row that are impossible, I go buy a lottery ticket, thinking somewhere along the line, the system has to balance out. It doesn't. All right. Like I said, you're standing there, you're having a great conversation. In the other corner of your eye, you see the marching soldier, the 8-ball. And the 8-ball was married. And he tells you these stories. And I tried to stop him one day. He had to tell me a story about his wife smoking, quitting, and then she got aggravated with some guy, supposedly, and she started smoking again. It was a bullshit story. But I said to him, look, I don't really want to hear about smoking. I told him, I said, I lost my mother, my sister, my grandfather, my mother, my sister, my favorite uncle, and a bunch of other people. And they all went the same way. I don't want to go, I'm trying not to go into that. But that's the thing that sets me off. Anybody smoking now, even pot. I don't want to hear about it. And I had my relatives, a lot of them were alcoholics. And there's certain things that when I see that, I know the person's never going to change. And even the girls like that at the night shift. And someone was, I got to think about it. These women. They would say, "You don't know shit from Shinola. Shinola is a boot polish. It's black, so you don't know shit from Shinola. Think about that one." And then they would tell you something like, "Well, the problem with that girl is she's got a hollow leg." And you're like, "She's got a wooden leg?" No, she's got a. They had all these terms that I never heard of, and I learned it all from them. I learned all these medical things that happen to women from them. They'd educate me, the first child and this. From a woman's perspective, they educated me. And it's funny stuff, but they're like, she's in jail. I think that's it. All right, that's it.